Zack Snyder is the worst director in the entire history of the whole world, and I'm about to explain why using facts, evidence, science, truth, and evidence. It may sound like I'm being pretty sarcastic, but trust me, I am being 100% serious. So if you've never heard of this nefarious Zack Snyder, he basically is the worst director known to mankind. The biggest problem with his movies has got to be the visuals. They're just so bad, it feels like they're from comic book panels. It's almost as if he's making like comic book movies or something like that. I do not want that. Not to mention, the music is just absolutely terrible. I'm pretty sure the scores were done by like Hans Zimmer and Donkey Extra Large. I've never heard of those people. But most importantly, Zack Snyder just does not understand any of these DC characters, like Superman for example. First of all, what were they even doing with that costume? It's just way too realistic. It looks like something that's actually from another planet with that scale-like texture. If you look at Superman in the comics, they don't put that level of texture into his suits, and that's because it looks better when it looks like a Halloween costume. It has nothing to do with the fact that comic book illustrators were never really given the time to put that amount of detail into those little drawings. Not to mention, Superman in no way is a symbol of hope or light in these movies, and the reasoning behind that is because the movie is not lighthearted. It's not like those Marvel movies where there's jokes every 5 seconds. These types of movies need to be more bright and colorful, but instead these movies are just so boring as they try to explore Superman's like internal struggles in different phases of his life. We don't want any of that. They need to avoid trying to make him any bit of relatable. I just know for a fact that James Gunn's Superman movie is better, despite the fact that it hasn't even came out yet, because if you look in those trailers, David Cornsweet's Superman actually saves people. Henry Cavill's Superman never did anything like that. It wasn't like in the very first scene he was in, that was the first thing he did. As a matter of fact, all this version of Superman wants to do is kill people, because he killed Zod at the end of the movie. It wasn't like it was in order to save millions of innocent lives. He just acted like Zod had the same powers as him, when he should have just done the reasonable thing and arrested Zod. And it's just crazy because no other version of Superman would have killed Zod, except for Christopher Reeve, but that was different, because in that context, Zod actually did have his powers taken away, so it was unnecessary. Wait. But see, the thing is, Henry Cavill just did it so happily, he wasn't broken about it at all. And from that moment on, he definitely planned on killing as many people as possible, given the fact that he never did. But see, the thing is, there's plenty of frames of Henry Cavill's Superman looking angry or having laser eyes that I can take out of context and show them to people to explain this is how Zack Snyder sees Superman, while this is how James Gunn sees Superman. See, we have Superman and Superman. I'm just so brilliant. Also, they tried to explore an evil Superman with an alternate reality here, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, isn't that supposed to be an alternate version? Even if it's an alternate version, it's never okay to explore an evil version of Superman. But enough about Superman. Zack Snyder also does not understand Batman in the slightest. First of all, why does his suit just look so stupid? It's like the most comic accurate thing I've ever seen. It needs to be more realistic, like the Dark Knight trilogy or the 2022 Batman movie. Not to mention, Batman kills people in Batman v Superman, which is a thing he would never do in the entire history of the comics. In his very first appearance, Detective Comics number 27, it established that he had a no-killing rule and he did not kill a single person. And you might be thinking to yourself, isn't this supposed to be part of his character arc where he's in a later phase of life and he's broken, and it's implied that he originally did not kill people? Well, I can guarantee you that is not the case, given the fact that after his character arc in Batman v Superman, he tries to be a better person and stops killing people from that point on. Not to mention, did anyone notice in the Batman v Superman movie how there's no difference or distinction between Batman and Superman? Because Batman's trying to hide from the authorities and Superman's like trying to gain people's trust by showing up to the trial. He even did a similar thing in Man of Steel by letting them handcuff him. I mean, that's just so dark and edgy of him. Not to mention, there was that one Martha scene in Batman v Superman that was just so weird and awkward. It is not possible for a good director to have as much as one scene that was awkwardly executed, especially when you take into consideration that that was a very straightforward movie where it wasn't like the studio wanted Zack Snyder to set up the Justice League movie and have the death of Superman with Doomsday for the final battle, while also cutting off 30 minutes in the theatrical cut. And just overall, his movies are just too dark and not fun enough. There's not enough jokes. It's almost like he's trying to treat treat his audience like mature adults, which deeply offends me. Like in Batman v Superman where they try to do the broken hero story with these two characters, it's just not lighthearted enough. And you might be thinking to yourself, isn't this just a better version of what they were trying to do with Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi or Indiana Jones in the newest movie? And my simple response to that is no. His movies also have too much emotion in them. I mean, he could definitely learn a thing or two from Marvel. They just do such a good job of making moments feel less emotional by inserting random jokes. And I really appreciate how they're always reminding the audience that it's a comic book movie they're watching.
We're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
Also, not to mention, Zack Snyder's Justice League is 4 hours long, which is way too long for any movie. I mean, it is never okay for any movie to be that long. Does he really think our attention spans are that long? At least we have the 2017 theatrical version of Justice League where Joss Whedon was able to work his magic and just fix everything. He replaced all of that boring stuff with the Flash reversing time and all the other random boring stuff with fleshing out Cyborg's backstory and the relationship with him and his father. All of that stuff is replaced with some very funny jokes, and I love how he fixed the color scheme to match the tone of the movie better. It's kind of like how James Wan fixed Aquaman, where in the Snyder Cut, all of the underwater stuff they do with Aquaman and those characters just feels so serious. But then when you look at the actual Aquaman movie, it's just a masterpiece because there's jokes every 5 seconds. It actually feels like a Marvel movie, which is something Zack Snyder wishes he could do. No wonder it made over $1 billion at box office. It has nothing to do with the fact where it's a 4-quadrant movie. You see, box office numbers only have to do with the quality of the movie. It has nothing to do with the marketing or any other factors. It's no wonder that Zack Snyder's Justice League didn't make any money at the box office. And just the writing in his movies are really bad.
Tell me, do you bleed?
You also have to take into consideration the fact that he made the Rebel Moon movies. Now, even though I haven't watched them, I can confirm they're bad because some people on the internet have said they're bad. And if those movies are bad, that automatically makes all his other movies bad. It's not possible for a good director to have both good and bad movies. Zack Snyder just simply does not understand anything about the DC characters. He tried to ruin this whole franchise. It's no wonder why the DC Extended Universe failed. It was definitely all his fault and had nothing to do with just the studio not having good management. Zack Snyder just simply doesn't understand anything about DC. He's probably never even read a comic in his life. I can't think of a single plot line any of his movies are based off of. And just overall, all his villains and heroes are pretty boring. Especially in his Justice League movie, it just kind of annoyed me how every single hero actually contributed to the plot. It should have been more like the 2012 Avengers movie, in which you could change the lineup of the Avengers and still have them win. Overall, it's just great that James Gunn has stepped in. It's no wonder why he and Zack Snyder absolutely hate each other. Just overall, if you're a fan of Zack Snyder, the only possible explanation to that is that you are a cultist. Now, there are plenty of other reasons why Zack Snyder is a bad director, but I think I should end the video right here so that this doesn't wind up being 4 hours long like the Snyder Cut. And that concludes my strong reasons why Zack Snyder is the worst director of all time. It may sound like I'm being pretty sarcastic, but trust me, I am being 100% serious. You really don't even need to check the date in which this video was posted. That's completely irrelevant.